Hey guys, welcome to another episode of All Bass Creations, Effects, Tutorials, Demos, and Review. So, hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Thank you, Monchiro. Hopefully I'm saying that right, probably not, but thank you for subscribing. Definitely appreciate you. If you haven't already, hit that like button for me. So, what we've been going through here so far is just comparing some of the synths, that are kind of close. Not even close. I don't really care about getting close to other synths. Some other synths I thought would kind of work with that track. And I did one with the C4 synth, the Future Impact V4 VIP. Oh, let me switch over to pedal board view. And the MXR bass synth, the POG 3, and the Enzo X. This to kind of give you a comparison between the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pedals, you know what I'm saying, that could be used for synth stuff. So traditionally, bassists, we use a lot of octavers and things like that. So that's why I had the POG 3 in there, in that mix. So, let's hear a little bit of each one by itself. C4 synth, Future Impact. Oh, sorry. Like I always stress to you guys, certain pedals track better with certain EQ settings. MXR bass synth. POG 3. And the Enzo X. Make sure I got that sound good. So those are all the sounds I was just using there. They are all different. Probably the closest is the Future Impact. It's acting a little weird right now for me. And that's because this is the actual, or very similar to the synth of Thriller. You know what I'm saying? So, got my EQ settings all screwed up here. So, I took that pretty much that same synth and just used it for that. So, that's probably the closest. MXR bass synth, like I try to explain to people, it's definitely a pedal where you can, I would say, explore more than duplicate. You know what I'm saying? You want to explore. And the Enzo X, you probably could get that a little tighter. See what other, got some other ones here. Take something like that, bring that filter down. Probably get that even closer. Take something like that and bring that filter down. Let's bring this up to like there. So, you can get, I would suggest most pedals, synth pedals, bass synth pedals, that you really explore the sound itself, not try to duplicate sounds. The Future Impact V4 VIP or V4 is the only bass synth pedal that I found that actually duplicates the pedals super accurately. What's going on, folks? Definitely appreciate that. Appreciate that. Usual suspects popping up in the house. So, yeah, the main thing would be to, if you want to duplicate bass synths, I recommend the Future Impact V4 VIP, the small red pedal here. For a little bit more exploration, the C4 synth is definitely going to give you a lot more room to explore at a cheaper price. You know what I'm saying? But if you want like that real key bass sound and the ability to play key bass, I can always just take the same sound here, bam, switch this to synth, get that, bam. Now I'm playing it with the keyboard. Make sure nothing else on. Knew something else was on. So now you got your synth bass and key bass all in one rig, right? But to get to sounds that a keyboard can't get to. And that's why I like things like the C4 synth. So you can get to some funky sounds with the C4 synth as well. So don't sleep on that. But if they're one of those people that gotta have everything available to you at once, between the C4 synth and the MXR bass synth, the main difference is going to be the C4 synth has 4 oscillators and a lot more options, and you have to use the app to access those options. And you get up to like 127 presets in here, access, and it's fully, USB MIDI capable. So that's bonuses, you know what I'm saying? While the MXR bass synth, you don't have all those options. You don't have all those filters. You got 26 filters in here plus 13 distortions. You can, set up the filters with different envelopes and all this other stuff, right? Octaverse, you got all that in there. Here, you got everything pretty much available to you on the pedal. And the way I kind of look at it as, they both track very well, as you can see. I mean, any pedal pretty much is going to track well if you give it nice, clean playing, Oh, turned it on synth. Turn it back on bass. So all of them are going to track well if you give them clean playing. But MXR bass synth, where it really shines is, you can fully edit on the pedal. But you have to memorize all those secondary functions. You know what I'm saying? So things like if I wanted glide in that sound, I got to know that I can do that through the resonance knob holding the voice button. If I want more, here, gliding across there, extreme. And, things like the filter envelope amount, the output volume of, global settings, things like that, you got to kind of memorize with the MXR bass synth. But, you can do it all on the pedal. Something like the Enzo X is going to shine in a situation where, you want bass synths, but you want access to polyphonic pads, and you just want a general, you don't want to have to add an extra unit for distortion, filters, modulations, and all that other stuff. The Enzo X can do all of that, and it does it the best out of all of these. So you're not worried about, you got and you can get FM synthesis type sounds on here as well. So they all track well. Polyphonic octavers are going to give you that. Let's get this together here. depending on what your needs are and what you plan on doing with the unit is what you really need to consider with these. If you want to duplicate vintage bass synths, Future Impact. If you just want to get in this bass synth game, the C4 synth or the MXR bass synth are going to do you just fine. MXR bass synth is going to be easier for you to just get a few sounds, but the C4 synth for around the same price, if not the exact same price, is going to give you 4 oscillators, 26 different filters, 13 distortions, and all these other options. You just have to know how to use it. And the Enzo X for $600 is going to get you mono bass synths. It's going to get you polyphonic bass synths, all these type of sounds. Or this is something that none of the other synth pedals can do. On top of just being an amazing, envelope filter, and it's my favorite filters out of the bunch, out of all the pedals. My favorite chorus, flanger, phaser, right? So all that jam packed into one synth pedal for you. So it just, not saying that you can't get phaser or flanger or chorus with the C4 synth and the Future Impact, but also you got filters and chorus in the MXR bass synth as well as in the POG 3. But the Enzo X, gives you the best version of those, not just for the synths, but for your regular guitar or bass sound, Come on, you hear that? You know what it is. Just so musical, So when picking or looking at different bass synth pedals, you definitely want to look at everything that it can do, because the reason I have all of these, because they all do different things. They all sound different. None of them are exactly the same. And it's just like having different keyboards. I don't understand why bassists want to get one synth pedal so bad. Okay, get the one, and then get the other one, and then get the other one, and then get the other one. You're acting like this the end of the world. Like, you don't have to have one synth pedal. If you really want them and you've really learned how to use them, all of them are useful. Like this sound out of the C4 synth. I have sounds that kind of similar to that in the Future Impact? Sure. Let's go here. Matter of fact, let's go to 45. So I got, you got access to different stuff, and you throw that into some reverb and stuff. So you can get these different sounds out of, different sounds out of different pedals, basically. If I come over to the MXR bass synth, have a few. Let's go to vibratos coming from the Enzo X. These are straight up chorus from the MXR bass synth. So, you can get a ton of different sounds out of all these units. But what I found is they all are just like separate synthesizers, separate, keyboards, if you will. But none of them have like the exact same sounds per se. Even though they all might be using a saw oscillator, by the time you finish processing them the way each pedal processes them, none of them sound the exact same. And all of them have sounds that you can use for different things. The Pog 3 is going to have a whole different sound than. So let's see. Run that sound into something like the Mercury X. Let's get some action. Might do fifths. Fourths. Mind you, the Mercury X can do some of this pitch shifting type stuff like the fourths, fifths, and splitting octaves and things like that. The Enzo X is also a polyphonic octaver as well as a monophonic octaver. So yeah, I think it's more important in the grand scheme of things to understand that just like no one filter pedal, is or distortion pedal or any pedal is the end all be all of everything. Even something like the Enzo X, as much as I love it, I still love these other four pedals as well, for the features that they have. So don't get stuck on the branding thing, like, or the marketing schemes, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know the MXR bass synth had this big rollout where a lot of people were just like, it's the end all be all. And then when people got it, it's like people fight so much to be like, is it as good as the C4 synth? Is it as good as the Future Impact or the Enzo X? Does that even matter? Do you like it? Can you use it? Does it sound good? That's the end all be all of everything. Can you use it? Does it sound good? Does it perform well? That's all you need to worry about. And then on top of that, don't always listen for what you are hearing in the demos. Listen for the capabilities. Listen for how it's interpreting the players' stuff. And like I said, each one of these track slightly different. So some things that'll help you out with the tracking of each one. Let's start with the C4 synth. C4 synth, you're going to want to have. Let's go to. Right? Let's go to a bass synth. Yeah, I got quite a few of these in here. Let's go here. Right? So I have the tracking on fast tracking on here. If you go on this app, you'll be able to adjust the tracking speed. I have mine set to tracking fast, and I have it set to a 5-string. No, I have it set to a 6-string setting. So basically it'll track for my low B already, my high C. I don't really need that, but I have it set for that. Setting the range on the C4 synth definitely helps your tracking. You know what I'm saying? And just like on the MXR bass synth, we'll skip over to that. Things you want to adjust for that. And, well, before we go on, C4 synth, you want to use your high mids, boost your high mids, and cut your lows. You know what I'm saying? And keep your highs flat. And that usually gets me decent tracking. But the MXR bass synth, same thing with the EQ, right? But things I had to adjust when I first got it, I turned it on the 4-string tracking. I don't believe in playing synth pedals past the B on the E string, because it just defeats the purpose. If I got 4 octaves, if I play at the lowest octave, I have to set all the oscillators above that. And we all know that octave pedals and synth pedals track better higher up on the instrument. So it's no need to really fight that. I say from this B on the E string and above is where you want to play, because that way you still get the octave below, the sub octave. You get the unison pitch, and you can have a pitch above. In the terms of the C4 synth, the Enzo X, it only has 2 oscillators. In that case, you can have a sub octave, your dry bass sound as the unison pitch, and then the upper octave as the second octave. So, things like that definitely help you out. And change the gate sensitivity on the, play around with that, the gate sensitivity on the MXR bass synth. Those things will definitely help you get better tracking. With the Future Impact, same EQ scheme, boost the high mids, but have your lows flat. Don't cut them. Just have them flat. Same with your highs. And then set, you need to set your on and off level accordingly. First off, set your input level, with this knob here, set that to where right. You see how that red LED flashes when I first hit the note, only on my attacks. Right, you see how that's always just flashing, then it goes away. So, you know, that's the first step. Then the on note off and the note on level. If you want to do more staccato playing, you want to use a higher note on level for that, for the future impact. And then you want to, I also have the tracking on here to the fastest tracking, you know, so I don't have it set to accuracy, I have it set to fast. And then the Enzo X, it likes to have your low mids boosted, your lows cut, and your highs like cut just a little tiny bit. But from there, pretty much tracks very well. Polyphonically. And monophonically. So ultimately, the tracking comes down to you actually playing cleanly, how you EQ your bass, and if you're using compression before or after. Like the Enzo X doesn't like compression, so it actually tracks better without compression. What do I got? Thanks. And, you know, so the POG 3 actually depends on what you put into it, how it sounds. So if I put in a super thin sound, go back. Ooh. Right? If I put in, that depends. If I boost the high mids, if I boost the lows, the highs, so it really does depend on your EQ. So if you want to say like you can't quite get it to get in that bass territory, try shaping it with your bass a little more. Let's see where I want that. Say I want more definition. Watch that volume. So all that makes a huge difference with an octaver like the POG 3, especially electroharmonics octavers in general. They tend to depend on the tracking is going to be amazing regardless, but the actual tonality of the octave depends on what you're putting into it. So you want a darker sound, make a darker EQ, and that's really convenient, to be honest. If I want a bassier sound, I can just add more bass from my bass. If I want a thinner sound, I can add it. If I want more bottom, excessive amount, whatever I want, I can pretty much create it, and it's still polyphonic. So, and it never glitches out. I will give them that. Electroharmonics POG 3 does not glitch at all in terms of your tracking. It's super fast. You really cannot outplay it. Like, I've never been out there. And the slight delay you're hearing is on purpose because it has a spread knob, which adds a slight amount of delay to the octaves, which I particularly like, which kind of spreads them out a bit versus right? It's still a nice octave sound. And if right? But when you get to that spread, definitely add some stuff. Oh no, this is not actually a wide neck at all. Like I don't have big hands at all. I got normal size hands. Like I have no problem wrapping my hands around the neck. I got normal size hands. This bass is especially made for me and my hand. So like this neck has a narrow string spacing, asymmetrical neck, and it's very light instrument, very light, super light. I mean, like you could throw it, and it's not a problem. Don't throw my bass, but it's super light. You can play it for hours, and it's super balanced. I don't have to hold it for it not to do a neck dive. Like it just sits there. Even when I move around, it balances itself. Like it'll go that way before it'll go that way, and which means none of that weight of the neck. Like if you have a neck down here, it's trying to go down, right? So having it here, bam. But this bass is as easy as you're gonna get of a bass to play in general. So, don't let the 6 strings fool you. I don't have giant hands or nothing. It's not too much bigger than a 5 string actually. That was one of my requests when they were building it custom. Hey, I want it closer to a 5 string neck than anything. That's one of the main reasons you would get a custom bass, is so you can give ridiculous demands like that. Like, hey, give me something that got some really, a little tighter string spacing. I didn't like the way a lot of the 6 strings played on the market, like the stock stuff. But I always loved Ibanez necks, right? Ibanez, before I had this one, I had an Ibanez Sound Gear 6 string that was amazing with the Bartolini pickups, three band pickups and all that stuff, pickup blend. Before I had this bass, and that bass did me just fine for years. It was super light. Only problem I had was it had that neck dive on it, meaning the neck would weigh down this way on my hand and my wrist, causing extra tension. While this bass, I can play with no effort because I just literally, it's like it's almost on a stand, even though it's sitting on my lap. It's like it's on a stand. I just put my hands to it and play it. I don't have to kind of keep it there or none of that stuff. I don't have to hold the neck up and all that good stuff. But yeah, so that's my bass in a nutshell, if you were wondering. So yeah, just to wrap this up a bit, each of these synth pedals definitely are worth checking out. I don't just have these because I have a YouTube channel. I have these pedals because these are the pedals I like to use. This is my main gigging board here. This is an auxiliary board I built yesterday in like 20 minutes. But so this is stuff that I like, extra sounds. This is all my extra sounds over here that I may not use every gig or even as often when I'm looping and stuff. All this stuff is stuff that gets used every single day, all day long. You know what I'm saying? So take that how you will. You know, C4 synth, if I have room, I would put it on here, but hard decisions got to be made when pedal board real estate is on the line. So, but I definitely appreciate y'all hanging out with me. I hope y'all understand the difference between these synths. I know a lot of people were always wondering that. How do I, which one? I get that question so much. The king of bass synth right now is the Future Impact V4. The king of polyphony and all around great investment pedal is the Enzo X. Like Enzo X, you're going to use it for everything, not just the synths. You're going to use it. You got octavers in there. You're going to use it for your distortions, filters, overdrives, all that stuff, and modulations. And not only that, but you can create unique dynamic modulations. You can create, you got the modifiers in there like the LFOs, the random generator, which is the S and H. You get two LFOs, actually, LFO A and B. And you get whole modifier. You can sign it to a whole modifier. You can have it signed to an envelope, the expression pedal, a sequencer. The list goes on and on, what you can do with the Enzo X and the Mercury X in terms of an octaver. The Mercury X does some nice octave stuff and has all those various categories as well. So, yeah, MXR bass synth, I recommend it. If you just are so reluctant to using a menu or having to learn too much stuff, the MXR bass synth definitely is good for that. Like if you just don't know what you're doing with a real synth pedal, the MXR bass synth is good for that because you're going to be able to create some great bass sounds without having to really learn how to create a synth, bass sound. Versus the C4 synth and the Future Impact and Enzo X, you will all really have to learn how a bass synth works, which is not a bad thing, but they will all have a significantly longer learning curve, mind you, learning curve than the MXR bass synth. But that is not a bad thing. You should learn how a bass synth works, and once you learn how it works, you actually learn all three of these pedals at once. So, that's something else to consider. Actually, all four of them at once, because you'll know how the MXR bass synth works as well. So if you know how to use the C4 synth, you can easily find your way around the Future Impact or the Enzo X. If you learn the Future Impact, you can easily find your way around the C4 synth, Enzo X, and the MXR bass synth, and, same thing with the Enzo X. So I actually had the C4 synth before I had all of these pedals. But it wasn't until I got the Enzo X that I've really learned how to use a synth, because it had a full ADSR for the envelope of the oscillator and the filter envelope. So, that's something else to consider. How deep do you want to be able to, or how much customization do you want to do? The least customization, MXR bass synth. Next would be the C4 synth, and that's because you don't have a full ADSR in here for the oscillators and the synths. You know, you just have some presets for envelopes. The Future Impact and Enzo X are both going to have full ADSRs for the oscillators and the filter. So I don't know if you know what that means, but that means complete flexibility, in other words. So, you know, I'm not going to recommend any one of these pedals or the other. I'm not, you know, you just got to kind of listen to what I'm saying and understand what I'm saying. Like, if you don't understand what I'm saying about synths, oscillators, and, you know, envelopes and all this stuff, then get a MXR bass synth. I mean, that's the only option you have, because these other ones are actual bass synths. You really have to know certain terms, a certain amount of bass synth or synth knowledge in general. You know, the Enzo X is just going to simply do things that the other pedals can't do, and the Future Impact. These are the two pedals here. If you're only going to get two out of these four, Enzo X, Future Impact. Future Impact's also going to give you a key bass rig, like I said. You can also play the Enzo X with a keyboard. So if I wanted to, those same pad sounds. I also got a keyboard, piano on the iPad going, but turn off that piano. This is the Enzo X. String sounds from the Enzo X. I created this one myself. Come on now. That's $600 worth it. Because you can also, same sound. And you know, I wouldn't even call it menu diving, to be honest. Like the Enzo X and the Future Impact both, and the C4 Synth all have apps. So technically, if you use the apps, you're not doing any menu diving. You can just edit it right on a much bigger screen on your computer, or in the C4 Synth's case, on your phone. You can do it on your phone or the computer. So it really just depends on what you're going to use it for. Like if you want a rig duplicating vintage synths, you got to get a Future Impact. If you want something that's monophonic and polyphonic and gives you not just, you know, the synths, but great, all that other stuff I said, plus delay and reverb in here. Like, and my favorite algorithm from the Mercury X is the Prism. They give you 3 Prism algorithms in here and a full stereo delay. Just all types of sounds. Come on now, like, and it's tracking that polyphonically, the whole chord. None of the other pedals can do that. So you got some decisions to make. I can't make them for you. You know, I can't make them for you, but I'm just giving you guys the information you need to either make whatever, decide what you want to get first, but all of these pedals I honestly can recommend. Now, if you talking about, so probably the C4 synth is, out of all these, probably my least used synth pedal out of all these, if that helps any. The next would be the MXR bass synth, and the most used pedal here is the Enzo X. I use that for whether I'm using bass synths or not. I'm using all the effects in there. I use it as a multi-effects unit, essentially. And then the second most used would be the Future Impact, as like a lot of my bass synth stuff, because besides just duplicating stuff, I've been able to create some serious stuff. Mind you, all these sounds you're hearing from these different pedals, the C4 synth, Future Impact, and Enzo X, are available on the Patreon in the pack. You ain't got to try. They're already there. What's going on, bro? Appreciate your porch bass. Yeah. All y'all joining me. Jeremiah in here somewhere. There's a bunch of y'all in here. Oh, I appreciate that. All the usual suspects starting to show up. But yeah, I recommend them all. And in terms of the POG 3, I didn't mention that one in this particular conversation. I mentioned it when I was playing, and we played through some stuff, but the POG 3 is just a different thing altogether. If you want the Cadillac, the best, the Lamborghini, the Rolls Royce of octavers, the POG 3 is it, even though it has its own troubles and problems. The firmware I have seems to be really stable. I haven't had any problems with it, fingers crossed, so far. So since I've gotten it back, I can't say that I don't recommend it. It does a tremendous amount of things too. But I would recommend that you look at the synth pedals as multi-effects pedals as well. You know what I'm saying? If you want to really minimize your gear out of all these pedals, the Enzo X is going to allow you to do that. Plus, you can play it with a keyboard, full MIDI in and out, full-size MIDI ports, all that stuff, 5-pin MIDI. And you got just some of the most high-quality effects in there I've used. Now, the Future Impact does have some nice effects. It does have, it has some nice overdrives and nice chorus, delay, flanger, phaser in there as well. And it can fake reverb. It can't really do it for real, but it can fake it. MXR bass synth, you can use it as an envelope filter in the chorus, but you won't have a real dry sound. You're just going to have your buffered version of your sound running through there, and I don't particularly like that, so I don't count. It can be used for chorus and filter by itself, but that's not my favorite. C4 synth definitely can be used as a multi-effects unit. You got 13 drives, 26 filters in there. You can get chorus, flanger, and phaser out of there in the filter section as well. So, and octavers. And it does have a polyphonic octaver. It just doesn't work well. So I don't even use the polyphonic side of it. It's not on octaver on there. It's really not my thing. So yeah, you can accomplish a ton with each of these pedals. You just gotta know what you're looking for. The only one that doesn't have full MIDI capabilities is the MXR bass synth. The only one you can't download preset packs from me or anybody else is the MXR bass synth. The only one that only has 8 slots for presets is the MXR bass synth. So it is the most absolute basic pedal out of all of them, out of all the synth pedals. So, take that into account. If you want the most basic thing possible and you just cannot be bothered with learning, I'm sorry to say it like that. But you gotta, the same stuff you're gonna have to learn to manipulate these. You pretty much have to learn to manipulate these. It just looks different because it's in knob form instead of being in, an app or something like that. So it's pretty much the same thing. You just can't see it, and it makes it harder to duplicate those presets if you wanted to, to change things. But it does have great features. It even has things like sustain. So, say I wanted to hold that note, I can just hold down the foot. I have mine set to sustain, so I can hold the foot switch and just sustain a note. And it'll just hold the note as long as I'm holding this foot switch. So I can do that with the Enzo X, the Future Impact, and probably the C4 synth if I set them up right. But it's not immediately, available like it is right on the bass synth. I don't have to set up really anything additional. I just have to change one global feature and it'll switch it to that. So, like I said, it's the most basic out of all of them. The best sounding is the Future Impact V4 VIP for bass synth. The best sounding overall unit for everything is going to be the Enzo X. So you're not going to get off cheap with either one of those pedals, but they are both worth investing in. And you won't have to keep buying pedals. If you get a Future Impact, you actually don't need a C4 synth or MXR bass synth. I'm not going to lie to you. But you still will need an Enzo X. I ain't gonna lie. That's the difference. These are the only two you really need. These are gonna cover everything for you. These two you get if you want them. You know what I'm saying? But this, if you get the Future Impact V4 VIP and then you download my preset packs, you're good on bass synths. I promise you. You won't need all that extra stuff. That's the first sound in the bass pack. Come on now. Turn this on my preamp. So, yeah, in terms of bass, you ain't going to beat the Future Impact V4 VIP with any of them. But in terms of versatility, you're not going to beat the Enzo X. So those are the two that are the winners. Enzo X runs as the most versatile. You can use it for anything, and all the effects in there are amazing on your dry bass sound. And the Future Impact V4 VIP wins for the best vintage bass synth sounds, like closest to a Moog, Moog, whatever, Moog, whatever. The Yamaha vintage synths, you can get pretty much any mono vintage bass synth sound with the Future Impact. And they're coming out with an update that's going to include all the sounds from the DX7 and that are compatible with the DX7. If you have a DX7, I believe you're going to be able to use the presets for that on the Future Impact, or, get those on there. You can pretty much have FM bass sounds now. So definitely worth checking out. If you haven't already, hit that like button, subscribe. Check out my Patreon if you want to support the channel. Hit that Cash App Super Chat. You know what I'm saying? If you found this useful. And also check out my earlier live stream where I went over the bass filter settings, like how to get the most out of your bass filters and what exactly those settings are and what they do to your sound. So check all that stuff out. Check out my music at allbasscreations.bandcamp. I did an entire album with just my bass and effects with no MIDI, and before I had any of these synth pedals. So I created all those sounds with just effects and my bass, no MIDI at all. And if you want to follow me on social media, at the Bass Negus, Negus, and that is pronounced Negus. Don't be afraid to say it. It's a great word. Look it up. All right. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you hanging with me. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share. Hit that hype button. Hit them reactions for me before you go. You know what I'm saying? Make sure, YouTube know you support me and like what I'm doing.